Hello, YouTube people. I am kind of sick. I feel like I'm usually sick. That's not unusual for me to start these videos with. But hello, hi, hello. I just released Songs of Moonlight, which is a sample CD and audio resource pack, where I used analog synthesizers to recreate the sounds of games like Final Fantasy VII and Kingsfield and Vagrant Story, all those classic goodies. And I wanted to show you, my viewers, because a lot of people have asked, what equipment I was using for that for that asset pack. Very expensive analog equipment. That was the point of the project. All of my sample CDs and audio resource packs, I try to do something new with, like Grindhouse, for example. That's all samples created from the same source, which is, industrial equipment and industrial settings. Letters and Memories used all the same sample sources and such and stylings as Akira Yamaoka from Silent Hill, which was, that whole release was a love letter to Silent Hill 1 through 3 rather, and that, very distorted reality era of sample CDs. And with Songs of Moonlight, I wanted to create audio resources that emulated, more than just emulated, but were directly created using that same hardware. That's not what this video is about. This video is about how you can do that with some free plugins. And they're plugins we've seen before. They're things like Guy Engine and K1V, and then we have Sound Font Player here, and then Dext. But we're going to go through these one by one. I'm going to try to keep this a short video. I talk about Guy Engine all the time. What is a Guy Engine? Well, it's basically a preset library, a preset machine for sound fonts. Everything in here is a handcrafted recreation or original handcrafted sound inspired by and based off, some of the most iconic sound fonts ever. There are expansion packs for Guy Engine. I have them, but I'm showing you what you get here. This is actually, I think, the paid version of Guy Engine. I think Guy Engine's not free anymore. I think there was a free version of Guy Engine at one point. Sound Font Guy can confirm or deny this. I remember there being, I don't know if I got it for free, but I do remember I paid I paid for multiple copies of Guy Engine at one point because I did not feel like it was I felt like I had gotten it for a steal. I feel like the price it was being sold at was way below what its value is. But what is Guy Engine? It's a lot. There's a lot going on here. It is just basically, think of it like you will any other sound library. It's got everything here sorted by the banks, and then in the banks you have instruments or styles, things like that. You have full MIDI performances. I never really opened this. I can't really speak on what's going on in here. You got your ARPs, which are great. It's not recording. Just if you want to go in and get some basic ARPs. A lot of stuff going on here. If you just want to grab an organ. Sorry, my playing's off. My keyboard's at like a weird tilted angle. You have your reverb. Great, beautiful, very lush and wide reverb. I absolutely am obsessed with this reverb. I believe he sells a reverb plugin that is just this reverb. And then we have, you know, our convolution, which is just a convolution reverb. And you have all of these system-based convolutions. Absolutely incredible. But to the point of recreating that sort of Kingsfield style sound, you do have a lot in here to kind of just open up and take from. Very, very lot of stuff going on here. Oh, the whole drum kits too. There's oh my god. There's drums. You can tell there's drums. Sorry, I never touched the drums in here, so like I'm not familiar with the keyboard layout for the drums. There's just a lot of nice, cool things happening in here. Oh, the choirs. I love the choirs in Guy Engine. The choirs in Guy Engine are some of my favorite, especially when you like cut the lows and put a little of that convolution on. And I like to cut the release, get the volume up a little bit. Because a huge part of these Kingsfield style like Rompler synth based soundtracks is you have that high, like not high end, you have that high gain. So you want a little bit of clipping, you want a little bit of you want a little bit of clipping so that you have a grit to compress, if that makes sense. And what that does is it ultimately helps you use a plugin like, let's say, Kodak, and you want to take the bandwidth to 4K is the lowest it'll go. And what it does is when you have that high clipping with you know a bandwidth of like 6K, maybe even 8K and below, but I think you can go to 8K. You can really hear it like on the notes that sustain. You get this texture that you don't really get with modern synths and modern like physical analog synthesizers. Everything's clean. Everything's cleaned up. You don't get these harsh, aggressive high ends. You are more or less stuck with a polished, finished gem. And the beautiful part about all of these old soundtracks is they were gems in the rough. You know, they were very, very rough sounding. Just putting it bluntly, they were very, very, very rough sounding banks. And it was totally fine because we were hearing them through low fidelity speakers. We were hearing them through consoles that couldn't push sound super high. We were listening to super, super compressed, you know, very high attack compression systems. So when you have something like Kodak, and when you have something like even Compressor Plus on Bitwig, I'm sure there's a compressor out there that somebody has made. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people who I fucking love my stock plugins. I love Compressor Plus. I love Dynamics on Bitwig. I even love the Bitwig EQ Plus. When I really, really, really need to start diving into like the native instruments side of like mixing and mastering, I do that for, you know, higher end or higher value projects. But when I'm working with stuff like, you know, SFS2, this is just a sound font reader. You even get those classic held stutters, because you know that's the end. That's the end of the word. That's the end of the font. I guess I don't know how to describe it, but you know. And then if you want to go back to that lower range, you get these sounds that just emulate that era of games, and it's not something you really hear a lot anymore. And with SFS2, it's designed to just look like the interface of a Rompler. You have your volume and all the stuff over here. You can absolutely mess with the ADSR if you want, the filter. All of that's here. The only things I don't ever touch are the mods. I just don't feel like they do a lot in this plugin to make it really stick out for something in this genre, for something in this like, oh, Kingsfield, blah blah blah, Vagrant Story. You'll maybe once in a while get a sound. Oh no, a spell got cast. I don't know, but that's more of a sound design sort of thing. And I do sound design work very rarely, but not as much as I do stuff like actual music and art, stuff like that. But yeah, SFS2, this is 100% free. You click load to load your sound font bank. You taking a risk here. I don't know what this is going to open to. What do we got? We got Final Fantasy X. Cool. All of these are different tracks from Final Fantasy X. So you just legally and ethically resource the sound fonts. I have access to hundreds of them on my Discord. If you want to join the Discord and get sound fonts there, you can load them into sound font or SFS2. Play around with them, do whatever you want. I just have another SFS2 here loaded to kind of show like different sounds. This is the sound font preset that I use. So I have two of everything layered basically. That's it, just two of everything layered. So if I want to bring in like two SFS2 sound fonts, blah blah blah, that's just pretty standard. This we could totally bring up. I don't know if that's... Slap. The delay in here is chunky and nasty, and I hate it, but it's so unique. There's a commercial game I'm working on that uses sound fonts, and every single track every lane for every track just has the delay for SFS2 slapped on to the same parameters. And it gives it this really ethereal, haunting vibe, which, you know, ties into a lot of the game's themes. Moving on, we have the iconic, the GOAT, K1V. I talk about this all the time. With stuff like KV1 that's perfectly emulating these sort of old digital synthesizers. You really do want to kind of like bring out or bring down like the highest and lowest ends possible. Maybe even go into like, you know, the plus 30 range. Just kind of get it like really, really, really low down there. There are hundreds and hundreds of things to just play around with. Well, I missed the key, but you get it. A lot of stuff going on here too. The multi just lets you stack. And then the edit is this is just, you know, where you're actually getting all these stacked sounds from. You get that. System, there's not ever really a reason to go into system. Unless maybe you want to turn off the mod wheel, fuck around with velocity, but other than that, there's really not a reason to ever go in there. Most of the time you're just sticking into edit and you're kind of just playing around with things in here. But as for that, like there's the search function, the card function. I remember at one point people did release their own patches for this. That's not something I'm gonna jump into in this video. It kind of just doesn't particularly matter here. But yeah, if you click single and then edit, you have all of your sources for editing here, your fine tuning. Just a lot going on. You want to get into like the weird, really weird kind of stuff with editing the different sources and layers. But yeah, that's just you know, K1V. You could sit here for days and kind of just fuck around and find out with K1V, which is why I use it on any soundtrack I'm working on, be it game jam, professional, commercial, or personal, where I want this sort of early 2000s 90s sort of synth sound. K1V is usually ending up on there somehow in a way or another, even if it's just weird sound design stuff. Like if I want to take like, I don't know, something like this, and we just want to like make it, I don't know, there we go. I mean, that's a noise a monster could make, or that's a noise that could be level ambience, just complete background ambience to a level isolated from the music. And then last, you know, to talk about Dext. Dext is a bit of an anomaly. Dext is not as in-depth or crazy as the other three we've talked about. Dext is really straightforward. It makes noises and it has presets. And I've talked about Dext before. You can literally sit here for hundreds of hours and just keep making noises. But the cool thing with Dext is when it's in this like lower hertz range, you're really able to start getting very, very unique sound design points. I can sit there for hours just doing this, but and this is more for like the sound design standpoint of your project. If you know, when you evidently end up needing like weirder sort of sound design points to kind of play around and fuck around with, Dex is something that usually comes into play, and then also just the idea that it's very, very, very good at making pads. Oh, that is a phone noise. Let's just throw, I don't know, let's just the convolution. Yeah, that's Dex. It's just a little bonus one I'm throwing in here because it does continue to emulate that sort of very early analog on the edge of hybrid synthesizer. I'm sorry, on the edge of being a digital / hybrid synthesizer. But yeah, and at the end of the day, to emulate that sort of low fidelity, just something like Kodak. I think there's a paid and free version of this. Leslie Audio, I believe. Please, Leslie Audio, acknowledge me. You reply to my tweets all the time. I think we're growing close. Yeah, so definitely check out Kodak if you just want to recreate that low fidelity 4K. I wish you could get 2K hertz. It's very, very challenging to get to that 2K 1K range. When we're talking about the bandwidth of those actual games, it's to my knowledge in like the 400 to 1K range. And with Songs of Moonlight, the lo-fi range, because every hi-fi and lo-fi track is mixed differently. The hi-fi tracks, they're all at 24K. 20 is the highest here. I think it might be like 20, so it might be at 20. 20 to 24K is the high fidelity range. They're all mixed and mastered traditionally, like as I would do like a normal commercial track. And then the lo-fi ones, they're in like the 800 to 2.5K range, and they're all mixed as they would have been mixed back in the day, miserably. Very unfun project to make, but I'm glad I did it. It's got a lot of downloads, which I'm actually surprised about. Yeah, that's it. So if you want to recreate Songs of Moonlight, Kingsfield, Vagrant Story, Final Fantasy, RPG 2000s kind of sounds, check out these plugins. There's always going to be links in the description down below. All of these should be free. I think Guy Engine is the only one that's not. I think there was a free version at one point, but we'll find out in the description down below. And like always, give a like, give a comment and all that stuff. I should say that at the start of videos because I know people don't watch to the end. But yeah, thank you. check out Songs of Moonlight just to listen to, and just have an idea of like what things sound like. I'll be uploading rescored videos using the loops and stuff from Songs of Moonlight to promote it, because I need to promote my things. Like and hit the bell and subscribe, and do the Dougie and teach me how to do it if you have time. Thank you.